Okay, I'm just going to get started. I want to say welcome to everybody who is joining us for this event tonight on Facebook Live. My name is Taryn, and Taryn Boyd, and I'm the publisher of Touchwood Editions. I'm super excited to have you here. This is the online launch of our brand new cookbook, Bisous and Brioche. First, I'll just tell you a little bit about us. I'm Taryn Boyd, and I'm the publisher of Touchwood Editions. We're an independently owned Canadian book publisher based in Victoria, BC. We're a small team of creatives who share a big love of eating, drinking, exploring the region, and diving into stories that expand and deepen our worldview. Our best work happens when creating beautiful books on topics that ignite our passion: food and wine, regional history, art and photography, gardening and pets, and quality literary fiction titles. So tonight I'm really excited to introduce the co-authors of this cookbook and their friend Daisy, who's going to be hosting this conversation. So first of all, I'll show you the book, Bisous and Brioche, classic French recipes and family favorites from a life in France. The author, Laura Bradbury, is the author of several books, including this one, of course, but most recently the novel A Vineyard for Two, and the best-selling Grape series memoirs, which recount how she followed her heart and found l'amour in the Beaune region of France. Laura, her husband Frank, and their 3 daughters divide their time between Victoria, BC, and a beautiful village in Burgundy where they own and manage 3 vacation properties. Hi, Laura.
Hi.
Then we've got Rebecca Wellman. She's a photographer who has specialized in food and lifestyle photography, recipe development, and food styling since 2007. In 2017, Rebecca released her cookbook, First We Brunch, a book of recipes and stories from Victoria's best-loved breakfast joints. You can actually also find her work in the 2 official Outlander Kitchen cookbooks, the official Outlander companion cookbooks called Outlander Kitchen. Rebecca lives in Victoria, BC. And then we've got the host of the conversation, Daisy. Daisy Orser is co-founder, along with her husband, of the ROOT CELLAR Village Greengrocer in Victoria, BC, an award-winning fresh food market. She's a contributor for Eat Magazine. You'll find her column there, Enthusiastic Eats. And above all, Daisy believes that gathering around the table is what connects us as people, families, and communities. She's also the mother of 3 hungry sons. So welcome, Daisy. So here you are. Hi, Daisy. So I see Laura, Rebecca, Daisy, nice to see all of you. I'm going to hand the conversation over to you, and then I'll pop back in at the end to thank everybody and say goodbye.
Thanks, Taryn.
Thanks, Taryn.
So, girls, this is
Hello, Daisy.
what I didn't put in my bio, and I think is my most qualifying skill to be here tonight, is my cookbook Sherpa-ing skills.
Yes.
So I think it's important that we talk about that because I contributed very little to your book. Just to be clear, not my book. I am just your #1 fan, and I did get to accompany you last fall on a trip to France where we collected stories and tastes and images for the book. And my role as a cookbook Sherpa was to pour wine, sprinkle flour, block the light. I made some crepe batter.
Take background photos, the behind the scenes stuff.
Background photos. I did take the photo in the back of the book jacket, so
that's right.
I'm a little bit in there. But yes, I feel like it's a very niche career path, cookbook Sherpa-ing, but I think it's cutting edge, and I think it's the way of the future.
Pretty much get paid in wine, I would say.
There was a little bit of wine drunk.
A little bit of wine.
And everyone has that tonight, right?
Yes.
Of
Shamefully, I have white, which is very shameful. Frank polished off the bottle of red last night, so.
Before we start chatting, it's important that we talk about a giveaway that we're doing. You can enter to win in 2 ways. You can engage with this live while we're doing it, or once this live is posted on Touchwood Editions Facebook and Instagram pages, you can comment in those feeds and you'll be entered to win. You can engage in one of those 2 ways until Sunday, December 6th at 5 o'clock Eastern time. And the random winner does have to be in North America and will be announced on Monday, December 7th on both of Touchwood's social media platforms. And on that note, girls, I feel like it's important that we first make sure that everyone knows what a bisou is.
Mm.
Yeah, so a bisou that's a word you say all the time in French, and it basically means like a kiss. So is a bisou, and that's how you greet people in France. And yeah, when you're saying goodbye to a friend, you might give them a kiss, or on the phone you'll say like bisou. It just means like I'm sending my love and my affection to you. I thought that was very appropriate for this book because we're sending our love and affection to all the readers through the food that we've got inside and the photos and the stories.
And I feel like everyone that's buying the book or watching right now either knows what brioche is or is excited to learn. So we'll leave that for the book. So I'm curious, and I think that most people are probably curious. Laura, why a cookbook? You write memoirs and fiction. How did the cookbook project come to be?
Well, my readers, since my Grape Escape came out, my first great book, my readers had been begging. I write a lot of like what I call in shorthand food porn. So it's really descriptive tales about the food that I eat and how it tastes and everything. And so many of my readers said, oh, I'm so hungry, you know, after reading your book. And can you please like do a cookbook with all these recipes in it? But I never felt equipped to do it, the photography and the formatting and the recipe development and everything, until Rebecca and I started talking about it. And then Touchwood came in the picture, and it just, all the pieces kind of came together. So I'm so thrilled to be able to do this and to give it to the readers who have been asking for it for years.
Can each of you, for me, because I found that really fascinating, in any collaboration, like explain what your roles were in the book project coming together?
Do you want to go first, Rebecca?
Yeah, sure. So when Laura and I started talking about this book, which was several years ago, and it's just come to fruition over the past couple of years, I had a little bit of experience under my belt with writing cookbooks and recipe development and styling, and of course photography for many years. And so my role was to learn about the recipes that Laura had experienced while she was in France, take those and make them beautiful and take photos of them for the book, but also contribute newly developed recipes so that we could sort of fill the book out. And some of the recipes in there that Laura has given me that were traditional or passed down from hers or Frank's family, I've modernized them a little bit, I've tweaked them a little bit. So there's a lot of recipes that are left very original to honor the generations in Frank's family. But some of them are also just tweaked to make them a little bit more approachable.
Okay, and are the recipes in the book attributed to your family in France or to Rebecca? Are they, do we get to know whose recipes are whose?
We didn't end up doing that, I don't think, because it was kind of a mishmash.
Sort of, yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
There's some that are for sure very clear that they're passed on from Frank's family in France. And some of them Laura mentions, she has done all the stories and the little headers for every recipe. And she will mention if I have tweaked it or taken some ingredients and made it into something, or so yes and no. But you know, it's all the same. It's all good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm very curious. It's a very well-rounded cookbook, but there are a few things that are very French that are not in here. I'm wondering if you can speak to things that didn't make the cut and maybe why. Maybe each of you can throw one down.
Well, for me, it would be escargot. That was the one that I was really wanted to go in there because it's so typically Burgundian and it's so associated with memories of escargot. And I mean, you can attest to that, Daisy and Rebecca. I ate a ton of escargot every opportunity I had. I was like, but you know, it's really hard to find good, like the actual snails and the shells and stuff here. It's really hard to find good quality ingredients. And also there's a good portion of our audience that it would kind of ick out as well. So that was cut.
Rebecca?
Yeah, for me, it was, and this was just sort of a a multiple attempt at putting something in that I wanted to, but just couldn't get it right. And that was the tarte tatin, which is an apple tart that starts out as sort of a combo of a stovetop and an oven dish. And it is caramel and apples, and then you put the pastry on top. And I did that dish, I think 3 times. And it turned out delicious, but it was not photo worthy for a book. So in the end, we decided to skip it and we replaced it with an apple cake instead.
Nice. I think that brings us to, I feel like I own over 100 cookbooks, and I don't know that I've ever made a recipe that doesn't have a photo. Rebecca, this cookbook has a photo for every single recipe, a beautiful photo for every single delicious recipe. Rebecca, can you speak to why that was so important to you?
Thank you, first of all. And I won't do a cookbook without every single recipe having a photo. I like that visual reference when I'm looking at cookbooks. And I feel like it's important when I'm writing a recipe and I'm trying to explain a technique or trying to, tell people in the recipe description what it's going to look like, is just take a photo, just put the photo in there, and that's helpful. So yeah, that's a prerequisite for me for sure.
Okay. Laura, I know that you have a very stocked pantry and you're equipped for all of these recipes. Is there anything that we need to have in our kitchens as we embark? I know some cookbooks you need to like really go and acquire specific things, or can we just hit the grocery store? Is there anything that's hard to find? Do you have tips on getting our hands on those things?
Yeah, I think really like we didn't include recipes that had like really esoteric ingredients that that were difficult to find, because I personally hate to start dinner at 5 o'clock and then open, have a recipe that I want to do, and then I can't find it. I don't have any of the ingredients at home. Any grocery store, I particularly recommend the Root Cellar, of course, because they have amazing ingredients. And then there's a few basics like crème fraîche and everything that you have at the grocery store in France that we tell you a very simple recipe for making your own homemade crème fraîche just from ingredients that you could easily find here. So really the ingredients are good quality local ingredients, but there's nothing too tricky or too difficult to find whatsoever.
Okay. We have a question.
Yeah.
It's from Paul, and that leads nicely to that. What about any equipment that we might need? Paul's wondering if there's a creme brulee recipe, and I'm looking, I can't remember.
There isn't. Yeah. I highly recommend doing creme brulee, but I came to the table with like 40 different dessert recipes. So I have a real sweet tooth. So we had to cut something somewhere, but so you don't need a torch.
However, you should have a torch.
Yeah, I think torches are fun. Let's face it, the picture, we're all a bit paranoid hard. You need the madeleines, you need a madeleine pan, but those are pretty easy to find or to order. And then the cannelé, which is like amazing. That's one of the most complicated recipes in the book. And we just put them in there because if you have a day and you really want to have a culinary adventure and make something truly delicious, then the cannelé is your ticket, basically.
It's so worth it.
So worth it. So so you need those molds, but again, you can order them, no problem. But that's really about it. And then any of the spices or anything like that, we give you all the recipes at home so you can make all those and stock your pantry with them.
So I think it's important that we talk about cannelé for at least a minute, even 10 minutes. Cannelé would be worthy of 10 minutes.
So good. We ate so many, didn't we?
Yeah.
I have not made cannelé, and I may never make cannelé because it's not easy, but I thoroughly enjoyed acquiring cannelé for us to eat almost every day.
Yeah.
How many cannelé do you think that you ate on that trip? I feel like I maybe ate like in 2 weeks. I feel like maybe I ate 100.
I was going to say 100. Yeah. And I don't regret a single one.
Mine was purely research, you guys.
Yeah.
Thing is, now that I've had cannelé from every small bakery in Beaune and many in Paris, I don't think I should even try.
Yeah.
Well, and the people in Burgundy who read this cookbook are not going to be happy with me because it's very like cannelé are the specialty of the Bordeaux area. That's like the huge arch enemy of Burgundy, the other winemaking area. So I'm featuring a Bordeaux recipe in this cookbook that has a lot of Burgundian stuff. So hopefully it doesn't sell in France.
Well, I will,
We've got a couple of those. We've got a couple of recipes that are not exactly from Burgundy.
Like salade niçoise, that's the French, in the south of France. And yeah, so
The bouillabaisse, things
yeah,
like
we
that.
strayed a little bit.
I will never eat a cannelé without thinking of Burgundy. And just so that people know what we're talking about, it's these beautiful, beautiful things.
Yeah.
There may not be many things better than this in life.
And if you are traveling to Beaune, just let me tell you, you can buy the beautiful copper molds in any grocery store. And you don't need to go to a gourmet shop or anything. That's where I found them. They're beautiful. So
Laura, a question just came in.
yes.
Does your prior reference to escargot being eliminated from the book, does it mean that the 2 cans that Carolyn recently bought will not be any good? Do they gotta go?
I mean, it depends what brand they are. I don't know. Like, they could be. Depends where if she bought them from somewhere locally, like somewhere that has good escargot, then they might be good. They might be good.
Let's just dream that maybe Carolyn lives in New York or Toronto.
Yeah, like a gourmet food store, I bet they would be good. Yeah. But some other store, I don't know. I have certain brands that I always go to in France.
If people were buying escargot, not that has anything to do with your book, do they buy frozen or canned?
You can buy either. They're both very good.
Both okay, as long as they're.
If you ever
right.
find the brand, it's Dutruy. It's Dutruy. If you find that brand, that is the one we always eat in Burgundy, and it's consistently amazing. So
Okay. I would like both of you, if you can, maybe Rebecca first. Can you talk about, you've written cookbooks before and you live in the food trenches of the world. Was there a part of the journey from idea to book in our hands right now that was like the highlight for you?
France, without question. I mean, one of the questions that I ask myself and other people ask us as well is, did you need to go to France? and to be honest, 90% of the book was shot here. We shot some recipes in France, but what we wanted to get was the feeling of the landscape and the countryside and the vineyards and the little villages, which we also have photos of in the book. So that was absolutely the highlight for me.
What about you, Laura? This was really different for you from your other projects.
Yeah, I think the trip to France, I had so much fun. That's the first time that I've gone to France with girlfriends. And if it wasn't for the pandemic, I would have already done it 2 more times. It was so much fun and I want to do it again. But I think holding the book in my hand, because this is so far beyond as far as like the beautiful photography, the beautiful design and everything, it's so far beyond what I do in one of my memoirs or novels, just the design and the quality of the paper and everything that goes on it. It was really incredible to actually hold that in my hands and say, this is really a beautiful, beautiful cookbook for people to enjoy.
How long did this project take? From the first conversation you and Rebecca had to today?
I'm thinking 2 years, Rebecca. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it several years ago, but from actually putting it into start into movement and then holding the book in our hands, it's been a couple of years.
Yeah,
almost. I think it was February we first started talking about it with Touchwood.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's a pretty really a labor of love over a long period of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Laura H, we know who that is.
Hello, Laura.
She's drinking wine with us.
And hi, Pete.
Wants to know if she can come next time. No, she doesn't. Well, I know she
can. We're gonna drag her along if she doesn't want to.
Will there be a sequel? No, that's not the question. What was your most challenging obstacle when creating the book?
Oh, I know. Sides. Remember, Laura?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, sides. Oh, how could I
You
forget that?
you explain that. Go ahead.
Okay, because in North American cookbooks, you know, you need to have like sides, like vegetable sides or things. But in France, they don't tend, because you eat in several increments of the meal, like you have like your entree that's like your, and that's all explained. We have like a lexicon of the order of French meals in the book that's really useful. Because you have like several different plates throughout your meal, you kind of have your main course and you don't really have sides. And in Burgundy in particular, they're very big on potatoes, pasta, a lot of potatoes in every different ways. There's like 100 different recipes for potatoes. Green beans, they're not too imaginative with their sides. So I really had a tough time finding enough sides to fill that section. I had like 4 times the amount of dessert recipes than we needed, and then not enough size recipes. So that was a challenge.
We made some stuff up.
Yeah, we did. And that's where we definitely did. They're all great in there. And for adapting French cooking to North American cooking, they're perfect to have. You need to have them.
There's, people who are watching, you need to ask questions. And to remind you, we're behind. I do have some, but let's get with the program. I need more. Otherwise, the Daisy question show, which is fine because I have very many. Speaking of the sides, I found that really fascinating when I was in France with you on this trip, I think, because I really only travel for food, but we were particularly focused on food and acquiring food and beautiful food and tasty food. But wherever I go to every grocery store and every market. And I personally find it fascinating that, you know, we sell endive, but we have a display that's 18 inches wide, a little box of endive. And in every grocery store there, and you can't get endive at a mainstream grocery store here, I don't believe, but there they have 5 feet of endive. And, you know, here we sell beets. Everyone grows beets. We're all very familiar with beets. We all eat beets, but the beet options were like extraordinary.
Yeah.
12 feet of beets. You can buy a 40-pound bag of beets.
Yeah.
You can buy pre-cooked beets. You can buy like beets in every form and function and shape. So I found that really interesting, just to get, it's a glimpse at like how the home cooks in a different culture cook and what's important to them. You know, the lettuces, it's all frisee, mountains of frisee, and radicchio, and just like things that, you know, people just walk right by here. So I love that your book will invite people to expand. Maybe we'll get to grow our 18 inches of endive to 24 inches because of your book.
I know the endive is something, I mean, I eat endives. They're a great winter vegetable. They're really good all throughout the winter and they last all winter long. And whenever, you know, when there's not a ton of other options and stuff, I just love them. And I make them, like, that's really one of my comfort foods is endive. And I love them so much. Like I make an endive salad that I love that's in the book that
I love.
And I just eat them like carrots sometimes. Like I'd rather eat an endive than a carrot. Just chomp away on it, you know.
Maybe we'll put that in on the sign.
Yeah. Laura eats a snack.
Laura wants to know what your favorite recipes are. And we're going to talk a lot about your favorite recipes, but each of you name your number 1 in the book. And let's go with your favorite recipe to actually eat. Because there might have been your favorite one to photograph, and there might be your favorite one to cook, but your favorite recipe to eat out of this book.
So hard.
That is such a hard question.
Yeah, because there's so many good things.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have made the beef bourguignon a couple of times, or more than a couple of times. I've made it for friends, I've made it for family, and along with that recipe comes a recipe for homemade egg noodles, and together they are to die for. I don't know if I can really answer that question, but that one comes to top of mind because I have made it several times.
Yeah, I like the boeuf bourguignon is amazing, as is the coq au vin. I have such a sweet tooth, and dessert is always the highlight of any meal for me. So probably it's the chocolate mousse that I've made like 5 times already, and it's so good. And it uses like 2 ingredients, like chocolate and eggs, and that's it. So
mine is the endive salad.
Oh, that's actually one of my favorites.
You can make it in 14 seconds.
Seriously.
It's so easy. And for me, it's nostalgic. It reminds me of that beautiful lunch we had. And
We polished off a bottle of Chablis as well as the cellar.
you might have. Oh, okay. Will there be a second book of favorites?
Yeah, let's let this one get out into the world first. But we have talked about that, so we'll just leave it there.
Yeah. So if everyone buys a lot of these and gives them as Christmas gifts, then if it sells well, then there is a big motive. I have easily enough recipes to fill another book.
We do. We've already got a list of recipes that could go into a second book if we wanted to do
and
that.
I'm constantly putting new recipes in my newsletter and stuff, but they do need to be refined and kind of tweaked like Rebecca does. So like there's definitely enough recipes for another book for sure.
All right. Ooh, this one's for me, ladies. You can just take a pause, drink your wine.
Okay.
Elizabeth wants to know if the book will be for sale at the Root Cellar, and we haven't actually talked about that. We do sell some books. So Taryn.
So yes.
I would say yes, for sure. Yeah.
And I kind of think they might all be signed, just saying.
I think we have an inside track on that.
There's a good chance.
Oh, we're falling behind. Okay. Hey, Nissa. Nissa gets priority right now. Nissa.
Yes, always.
Always. She wants to know, do you have a particular image or view or memory that pops into your head on the first bite when you eat a recipe from this book? I think you both should answer.
Okay, I think of so when we were in Bone and we were staying in the little apartment, that is where I cooked and shot the cover recipe, the French onion soup. So that is something that really casts me back to that time and that place.
Laura?
Yeah, I remember one day I made it was like the day that we had that incredible bike ride throughout the vineyards. That was like one of my very favorite memories in my life. Actually, it was so magical. The leaves were turning and stuff. And that night, that day or the day before, I'd made the tomato tart from the cookbook, and we had that with a big salad for dinner. And so that's like, to me, that brings back that incredible day and this beautiful but like easy thing to eat when you get back. And yeah, that was such a great memory.
For me, it's the same. I feel like it actually, for me, it brings me the colors. We were there in the fall, and it was so spectacularly beautiful. Yeah. Like before you could even, when you step out the door, before you can smell the smells and hear the birds, the colors just punch you in the face of the vineyards changing color, the yellow and the oranges. And it was so spectacular that for me, it's kind of a visual that comes with the taste.
Yeah.
We have more. Laura, your sister, she's talking about. She wants to know if we included olivade.
We didn't, but that is
I
going.
know that recipe. We didn't though, did we?
Yeah, but that's going in the next cookbook. If we do another cookbook, that's definitely going in.
That was Suzanne, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Suzanne, and so that recipe is it's like an olive spread, and I've never seen it anywhere else. Frank's grandma used to make it all the time, and the first time Suzanne came to France, she was like, "What is this thing? It's so delicious!" And she basically ate the entire bowl herself. She's like, "I'm just taking this," and she went off and so she figured out a way to adapt the ingredients here, because in France it uses a cheese that we can't find here, but she's adapted the ingredients, and it is like exactly like Mimi's olivade, and it is so amazing. And that is something I would put in the next book for sure.
What is the cheese we can't get here?
It's called Saint-Moré. It's like a spreadable, kind of really light spreadable cheese. And so she uses a cream cheese. She uses a mix of cream cheese, and I have the recipe. I don't know it off the top of my head though. She uses a mix of cream cheese and something else. But it's so beautiful. And if you love olives, it's like nirvana. It's amazing.
Okay. I feel like, speaking of your sisters, we are behind on questions, but I want to ask one.
Yeah, go for it.
I love a readable, I love a cookbook with photos of every recipe. And I also love a really readable cookbook. And the stories in this book are so endearing, and just like, even if you don't have tomatoes in your fridge, you're like, you'll go buy tomatoes so you can make the recipe that goes with that story. I want to hear about February is like the Tuesday of winter. What is that, Laura? And
that's Jane's expression. And both in the Pacific Northwest and in Burgundy, February is really dark. It's really grungy weather. And, you know, you just feel like, I don't know, that's always, I'm not even gonna tell you what I call my nickname for February is, because everyone knows in France and Canada, I hate Februaries. It's like my nemesis. And so yeah, and Tuesday is kind of my nemesis of the week. You know, you're at the beginning of the week, you're nowhere near Friday, but you have to get through the rest of the week. So that's how I always think of Tuesday and February as very parallel.
What recipe does that story with?
Crepes, because like when crepes are so comforting. So we have a tradition, like particularly in the winter months, we do crepes every Sunday night. So we just have like an easy dinner, and we all like sit around and enjoy crepes and put different fillings in them and stuff. And it's just a really lovely family tradition. And we started doing that in Burgundy. And it was a way to get through February. And there's also like a religious festival in February in the Catholic calendar that is called Le Chandelier. And it's Chandeleur. And it's you make crepes. It's like some religious significance. And I researched it for the book, but now I can't remember. It's to do with a saint who distributed. It's one of the very many saints, and he distributed crepes. So, yeah.
Paul wants to know if we would consider this a tabletop book, a fine cookbook, or an approachable cookbook, or all of the above. Rebecca, why don't you go for that one?
So by tabletop, does he mean like a display type of book?
He means, is it gorgeous? And I think he just doesn't know who we are. You are. Or he wouldn't be asking the question. Paul, it's stunning. Anyways, on to the other items.
I want to say approachable. Like we did that very purposely to make it so that it's not a, you know, a super high-end, difficult book. It is sort of an everyday French cooking cookbook. And I think who it is for is people who want to try French cooking, who are maybe intimidated by it. This is a good book to start with.
Okay.
So sort of all of the above, but not the high. I wouldn't call it high end.
Got no pretension.
No,
that's unpretentious
at all.
And easy to use.
And I gotta say that your version that you make at home may not look like the one Rebecca took a photo of, but it's gonna taste as good.
Oh,
Guaranteed.
definitely.
That never matters. It never matters with a cookbook. Yeah. I shouldn't. That. Wait a minute. Let me rewind. I said it's not high end. That's a terrible thing to say about the book that I just put out there in the world that we did. What I mean is exactly what Laura said. It's not pretentious. It's not a scary French cookbook.
So that makes me want to talk about scary French food. And I've been in the food industry my entire adult life. And when I was, I used to be really proud of my homemade Alfredo sauce. And Adam used to make me like fried mushrooms on toast, and we thought we were fancy. But when I finally thought I had arrived at like sophisticated cooking was when I learned about clafouti. And for years I called it caflouti. It doesn't matter if it's caflouti or clafouti, it tastes the same, and it doesn't matter what you call it. It's easy as all hell, and it makes people think you're fancy.
Yeah.
So I feel like talk about this for a second.
Yeah, that recipe, like clafouti, clafouti is basically crepe batter, like an adulterated crepe batter over any kind of fruit you have. So if there's no good fresh fruit, you could use freezer fruit, frozen fruit, and you can do any combination of fruits that you want, and it tastes absolutely delicious. And it's homemade, delicious, warm, beautiful often, unless you use blueberries and it turns blue. But it's so good, and it's so easy, and it's using fresh ingredients, and it's so delicious. And the next morning it's even better because it's like all, like it's warm and beautiful out of the oven. And the next morning it's even better because it's like kind of condensed and like custardy, and it's
And I just say that when I made that recipe for the book, I had been joining some friends at Shawnigan Lake. It was in the summertime, and I took that up with me. And the next morning, we actually threw it back in the oven and then sliced it up and drizzled some maple syrup over top, and it was like baking pancakes. Yeah.
You know, I often make it the night before, and we have it on Christmas morning because at room temperature, it's lovely. You can even make it in a big, ugly, rectangular casserole dish and just cut wedges of it and eat it with your hands. Yeah, it's the best thing of life. And
it's a perfect brunch thing. Like if you're having, you know, anyone for brunch or Christmas morning or whatever, just, yeah, pull that out and everyone's super happy.
My very favorite way to make it is with Rainier cherries because they're so spectacular. But the first way I ever made it, and the way I most often make it, is with Coronation grapes, which I think is a very Canadianized version. And if you freeze them first, they don't turn the whole thing blue. But it's similar to blueberry, but it's got a lovely little punch.
Yeah, and they're little, small, and lovely. Yeah. That's one of your classics that you have in your back pocket, and this book is full of those because I'm a very intimidated cook, especially with around Frank's family. And you know, my whole technique was finding these classic recipes like clafouti and tomato tart and quiches and stuff that, you know, I can do successfully every time, and then make me look like a way better cook than I actually am, and it tastes delicious.
It's also, I mean, we're going to move on from clafouti, but you can make it in the middle of a pandemic when there's nothing in your house but eggs.
Totally.
And some old frozen raspberry, whatever, right? Like, and it still makes you feel like you've accomplished a beautiful meal.
And the French chef. Wow.
Question from Daisy. How come no one else is drinking their wine?
Oh, I actually finished it.
I am.
That's the last dregs.
Okay, fine. Let's ask someone else's question for a minute. Colette read our minds. Do you have a favorite French wine that you would recommend to accompany some of the dinner dishes? And I know that's tricky because there's a spectrum of dinner dishes, and there are not pairings in the book, but how do you want to speak to that?
Well, if it was like a Boeuf Bourguignon or a coq au vin, I would try to find a Burgundy red Pinot if you can. Try to see if you have a good liquor store near you, a good wine shop. See if you can find some of the smaller producers that don't necessarily make wine for export. Those are for like the real Burgundian dishes, like coq au vin, Boeuf Bourguignon. And then, you know, for things like quiche, the tomato tart, you could go with like a nice white Chablis or something kind of white and minerally, or even like a rosé when it's nice out is lovely too with those things.
Since we're on wine, they want to know what we're drinking now.
Well,
I'll go first because I happen to have the bottle because I'm in the wine house.
Yeah.
This is what I'm drinking. Was it going to be backwards?
No, it's good. It's good. Yeah.
So this is a super accessible and beautiful French wine, Burgundian wine that Laura actually turned us on to, that you can get here in Victoria. This is the cruel part, is that so many of the amazing wines that we drank, you can't acquire here. Anyways, this is what I'm drinking right now. It's kind of a staple. We might buy it by the case.
Yeah.
We love it.
You can sort of tell by your background.
Yes. For me, Frank polished off that bottle last night. And so I'm drinking the white that was left, and it's a Vouvray, which is a white that we often get here. It's Vouvray. That's a really nice French white. Otherwise, I would be drinking the red, but the exact bottle that Daisy showed, except Frank finished it last night. So.
I'm drinking red, and I can't pronounce it, nor do I have it here next to me, so I can't tell you.
I thought I would throw this one down because just that idea, I'm so attached to the idea of the memories we form around food and the relationships we form around food. And I would bet $1 million that when I show you this label, I mean, Laura, this means so much more.
Yeah.
There's so many more layers for you because they're dear friends of yours. But Rebecca, like, this is such a beautiful day.
Yes, I have one of those in the cave in bone still, meaning I have to go back.
So, Laura, why don't you talk about that? I think that people are curious about what that means.
The cab, yeah. So that wine is made by Charlotte and Marco Buffet, and they have a wine domain in Volnay. And Charlotte Buffet is my one of my very, very best friends. And I call her Marie in all my memoirs because my daughter's name is Charlotte too. So two Charlottes was just too confusing. And yes, so the cave in France means cellar, and it's your wine cellar. And in Burgundy, that means that it's more all over France. It's under the street, so it's below ground. And when we bought our apartment in Beaune that we rent out as a vacation rental, they had this 13th century wine cellar under the streets of Beaune that they didn't know what to do with, and was filled with coal and dirty and disgusting. And so Frank and I decided on a total whim, sight unseen, to buy it. And we renovated the whole thing, and we store wine for ourselves and our families and friends in Beaune. And they're all the wines are kept at the right temperature. And we actually had lots of lovely wine tastings there with Daisy and Rebecca, and Renate. And it was just so lovely to be able to show them that and to enjoy that space. It's just beautiful.
We spent some rainy afternoons there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had so much fun uncorking bottles of wine from the cellar and bringing them up and being like, oh, we have to taste this, or we have to taste that. Yeah. And I write all about our renovation of the wine cellar. It's very cool because it's from the 13th century. So we're kind of uncovering the history as we go along in My Grape Cellar. That's one of my Grape series books.
Rebecca, I thought it would be fun for you to speak to some of I personally found it extremely fascinating because I cook and I acquire food and I appreciate food and I appreciate traveling, but I found it fascinating to sort of be a fly on the wall of the photography process. So there are a lot of photos in this book, like this one.
Yes.
Right, so this is the bouquet garni.
Yes.
And like every recipe, like every good recipe conjures a memory.
Yeah.
For Rebecca, I'm certain, and for the three of us, this one in particular, conjures a memory. So I was fascinated by the tricks of the trade. Do you want to like let people in a little bit?
Sure. I mean, it's really not all that tricky, but I'm laughing because of that particular photo. That is Laura with her cardigan sweater on backwards so that we could just have a full black background.
We were getting really goofy by that point.
Yes, that was we have a lot of behind the scenes photos of that actually that we should probably.
I feel like we should
somewhere.
Sharing them right now.
Well, I'm doing an Instagram take. We're both doing an Instagram takeover tomorrow on Boland's Books Instagram account in their stories, and that was one of the videos I was gonna put. We're just kind of getting really silly and goofy. I think we drank quite a bit of wine, and it's just we were poor Rebecca. She was trying to work with us, and
in this photo, because everybody wants to know, Laura. This is Laura's hand, and Rebecca's beautiful photo, and Laura has her eyes are crossed and she's sticking out her tongue.
Yeah, yeah. You think this is like a sort of a glamorous, beautiful, poised photo? It's not. That is just the crop that comes out of it.
It's really important.
It's so beautiful. This is like the magic of Rebecca. It looks so beautiful, and there's no way she just sees things that I don't see. You know. Possibilities of photos and ways to set things up that the normal person just doesn't see.
Well, I think to like I said, there's no tricks, but what I will say is that the space that I shoot in is tiny, and really that's all you need. You need good light, and you need just a little bit of space to style a photo and light it properly and make it edible. I don't do any of this Vaseline or glycerin or torches or anything like that. It is all edible, which my family is very happy about, and my neighbors are very happy about, and my friends are very happy about. And it's not tricky. It's not tricky like it used to be when you see those behind the scenes photos or those behind the scenes details of these special tweezered sesame seeds. That's not what I do.
But you know, it's all
real.
From a layman's perspective, it still feels like, it looks like magic to me when I watch Rebecca set up a shot. Like there's no way that I would see that shot or that I would be able to put it together that way. So it's, I mean, it's your day-to-day life, but I know, like, for me, I'm always just like, oh my God, like how did that all come together that way? So
thank you.
Are beautiful. They demonstrate that.
Speaking of the photos and the recipes that maybe didn't make the book because they were tricky, Rebecca, tell me about this.
The celeriac. Yes.
Book.
Well, I mean, sometimes a finished dish isn't all that pretty to photograph. And in this case, I made the finished salad, and it just wasn't doing it for me. So I decided to embrace that sort of beautiful ugliness of the celeriac and shoot it like a portrait. And so it's lit like a portrait, and it's got the texture, and I just wanted to get all of the sort of ugly beauty of the celeriac. And the thing about this recipe too is that if you don't know celeriac, you're not familiar with it, it's an easy recipe to make and try it out. It's sort of a weird vegetable that not a lot of people cook with on a day-to-day basis. So
sorry, I'm trying to find a photo because we're running out of time, and it's very important that we talk for a quick second about chocolate on baguette, Laura.
Oh yeah,
This was,
yeah.
Like, hurts my brain. Why is it in the book? Tell me more.
Rebecca was kind of like that too. Like what? Like what?
What is this?
If my sister Jane is on here, she will understand what I'm talking about.
I found it.
It was our nutritionist. Frank and I went when we were renovating. There it is, chocolate on baguette. So this in France, it was a nutritionist that we went to who had a reputation of being very strict in France, that Frank and I went to lose weight when we were renovating La Maison des Deux Clochers. And this was the snack that she recommended, the nutritionist in France, she said, you know, instead of like, for us and for our children, and she said, instead of having like a pâtisserie, like a pain au chocolat or a croissant or something for a snack, you're better off just to take a slice of good, healthy baguette, put a square of very good, healthy milk or dark chocolate, and that is your snack. And it's super satisfying and it's delicious. And honest to God, before you think it's like ridiculously silly, get some lovely baguette from like Faux-Les-Pis or somewhere in Victoria or wherever you live, and get some good quality chocolate and put it in there. And if you really want to up it a notch, put like a thin spread of really good quality butter, and it's nirvana. It's so satisfying. It's so good. And you don't need much. You just need like a little square. So that's what I gave my kids all the time as an after school snack, chocolate and baguette.
Do they eat it here? Do they still eat it?
Well, we don't have baguettes as much, like as systematically as we do in France, but yeah, they still, if we have a baguette kicking around, we all still have chocolate and baguette. It's like a comfort thing for all of us.
I want to make sure that everybody knows, speaking of systematic baguettes, about the baguette dispenser.
Oh,
the vending machine. Yeah, we've got a video of that too.
You need to share that tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm very ashamed. I don't think I have a photo of it because I don't like it at all. Like
I know that people are very disappointed in the vending machine, but
I know people are fascinated by it. Like our guests send us photos of the baguette vending machine, and I'm just really sad that our bakery in Valera closed and that we don't have the actual bakery that we used to get fresh baguettes. So the baguettes are delivered in the morning from a French baker, so they are fresh and locally made and stuff, but I just hate the idea of getting any food from a vending machine. So, but it's so indispensable in French life that when the bakery closed, they have these vending machines in the small villages that you go to the vending machine and get your baguette in the morning.
It's It's
Crazy.
the best, actually.
Yeah, I know. Everyone else loves it, but Frank and I are like,
Yes, I
you
get
know?
it. I get that.
It's tragic, but I love the acknowledgement. So we're talking about a village that has a mayor and a council and vineyards and beautiful homes and beautiful people, but not a single non-wine related business. There's no butcher or baker or candlestick maker. And in the interest of the citizens, so they don't die of baguette withdrawal, they've installed a baguette vending machine.
Well, the idea of eating any meal, whether breakfast, lunch, or dinner, without bread is unthinkable.
I love that I love the testament to the value of mealtime in France.
And if you don't have your baguette, it's like you haven't really eaten, you know, like
Yeah.
if you don't have baguette with your food, it's just absolutely unthinkable. And yeah, that was really hard to adjust to moving back to Canada.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
So we could talk for hours, but we kind of have a speed round planned, so we need to make it happen because I think it's super fun. Are you ready?
I think so.
We're gonna go Rebecca first, then Laura. What would you cook out of the book for a first date or to impress someone?
The bouillabaisse, the fish stew.
Laura?
Probably tomato tart and a big salad.
Comfort food. You have a kid homesick from school, you're not feeling great. What's your go-to recipe? Rebecca?
French onion soup.
Laura?
Probably the endives wrapped in ham with the bechamel sauce. Love that.
Okay. Brunch.
I'm gonna say the potato and mushroom galette.
Laura?
Probably for me, quiche or clafouti the next day that I made the day before, depending on sweet or savory.
Okay. What is the most beautiful recipe in the book to you?
I'm gonna go back to the bouillabaisse. I just find that the seafood just stunning in that recipe.
For me, I think it's the beautiful pork roast with the prune and the prosciutto inside that I gave Rebecca a rough idea and she just made it beautiful and elegant. And it looks just absolutely stunning. If you want to serve it to guests or whatever, it's just beautiful.
Okay. Dessert. Favorite dessert in the book?
Their Germain French chocolate cake.
So the yogurt cake for me, because it has a lot of sentimental, that's the first recipe I taught all my girls to make. So the yogurt cake and then chocolate mousse, I'm just powerless against chocolate mousse. Canelé,
not that I make it.
Yeah.
But if anyone wanted to win me over, this is the way.
Yeah.
Okay. Which recipe is your greatest escape to France?
That's a hard one. I think I sort of, so the greatest escape to France, I'm going to say the beef bourguignon or the coq au vin because it's very traditional.
Laura?
For me, it's the wonderful chicken with the creamy Dijon sauce that Rebecca kind of put together, because Dijon mustard, anything with Dijon mustard to me really tastes of Burgundy. Yeah.
See, for me, I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it's the endive salad, but
yeah, that too.
The other thing I feel like brings me back is cheese, and I'd love it if one of you could speak to the different way that they do cheese boards there. Why don't you go for it, Laura?
Yeah, that's a Laura question.
Yeah, cheese boards, I have a hard time explaining sometimes to people here that the cheese course in France, and it's very much your third course in most meals, and it's, a course that you have at lunch and at dinner. Your cheese selection, you don't do a cheese board with other stuff. You basically have some baguette on the table, and then you have your cheeses on a board, but you don't have any crackers, you don't have any dried fruit, you don't have any nuts, you don't have anything else, any charcuterie. That's completely separate. So your cheese board is just cheese. And we had so much fun putting together that photo. We shot that in Beaune, in the apartment in Beaune. And the cheese selection is just unbelievable in France. And they think actually it's the cause of a lot of the French good health. The cheese has a lot to do with it, the different varieties of cheese, the unpasteurized cheese. Yeah, cheese is a religion there, and I totally subscribe to that.
Shooting that photo was a nostalgic day for me.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, there's one question that we missed that I want to go back to, and the clock is ticking. This is from Laura's Pete. Would you oh no, where'd it go? Will you be offering a cooking class once the world gets back to normal?
That's more Rebecca. That's more Rebecca who's good at that. Has done that before.
Oh, Pete. Maybe that is, we'll see. That's sounds like it's a long ways away with the world the way it is right now, but we'll see. No promises, but maybe just dinner, and maybe just a dinner party. How about that?
Yeah, I'm all for like just having a big dinner party.
Yeah.
Everyone brings a recipe from your book, a big potluck.
Yeah. That sounds better, actually.
Yeah, Frank selects the wine and we just have a big celebration.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things to do, harder to do lately, and it's funny because it's tied to travel. One of my other favorite things to do is to just kill time in a bookstore reading the backs of books. It's the most tragic part of online book shopping to me. It's just not the same to read the little blurb when the book is not in your hands and you can't feel the cover. I indulge in this hobby the most when I'm in airports, because you have 2 hours to kill and I will spend it all in the airport bookstore reading the back of every book. It's kind of like being at the video store in the olden days, right? Where you just, anyways, tell us where we can buy the book, locally, not locally. Who's up?
You want to go, Rebecca, or do you
Sure.
want to?
Yeah, sure. So of course, we're all trying to support our indie bookstores right now in the days of COVID. So any bookstore, if they don't carry it, they can get it for you. So just ask them and they can order it in if you need them to. And it is also online at all of the big retailers. So it's really accessible anywhere.
And hopefully soon at the Root Cellar.
Yes.
And hopefully soon at the Root Cellar.
Exactly.
Anything else you ladies want to throw down?
You can actually find some links to some of the shops that they are available at both mine and Laura's website at laurabradbury.com and rebeccawellman.ca.
Yeah.
Lovely. Oh, we missed, I think this is a nice note to end on. So at the end of our trip, we spent a few days in Paris for no reason other than you have to spend
in France.
days in Paris.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not the question. Okay, the question is about the most amazing meal on our trip, which I think brings most of us to Paris, but not necessarily. See, we're all like glassy-eyed and nostalgic.
I know.
Yeah, it was Paris for me. Like, a Burgundy had such amazing memories and times and picnics in the vineyard type stuff, but Paris, I'd never been to Paris before, and Paris was some of the best food I've ever had. It was fantastic.
Laura?
For me, so much of a good meal is like context, is who I'm with, the environment I'm in. And I mean, we had some truly extraordinary food in France, so it's really difficult to pick. But I think that picnic we had in the vineyards the day that we went for that bike ride, vineyards, it was so beautiful. You know, it was a very simple picnic, but it was just so incredible. Like, it's amazing how in France, just the simplest food can taste so good, you know. And we had lovely wine that we'd bought at Charlotte's Domaine Buffet in Vonnet, and just the whole thing came together. It was truly magical.
It was. And the last night in Paris.
The last night in Paris
was amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if there's a tipping point or if it's because I have the luxury of living in a world quite full of amazing food, but for me, the highlights were more memory related, like the picnic in the vineyard, the lunch, the endive salad, Laura, when we walked through the vineyards all day and we just had lunch at your house. I mean, there was like a salad and some hard-boiled eggs and a lot of wine.
Yes, yeah.
It wasn't glamorous. And, you know, the meal we had, Laura and Rebecca, both the meal we had at Charlotte's house with her family.
Yes, yeah.
I don't even remember what we ate.
We had poulet Gaston Gérard. And I was like, see, there's no side. There's no side.
I remember. Yeah, I remember
A
that.
lot of meat, which is not typically my jam, but being ensconced in a warm family environment in a culture that's different than your own and being welcome was just so spectacular and lovely that for me that
started laughing and she couldn't stop, and yeah. So
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Okay, ladies, I think we're at the end of the road. I mean, we have a few. Are they gonna just turn us? Oh, hi, Taryn. Are you here to turn us
Hi.
on?
I'm so hungry now listening to you talk. I'm almost like tearing up. It just sounds absolutely, all of it sounds so delicious. And I also just wanted to quickly show people, because, you know, we're talking about your trip to France, but this photo, which is right at the beginning of the book, this kind of invites you to the beautiful Burgundian countryside and the cute little car, and I just love this little image. So
and Daisy was driving the car. Then we drove with the parking brake on.
oh, there's no smoke coming out the back of the.
Smoke.
They've been learned.
It looks great.
I love it. And now, honestly, so just hearing you talk about all this food, it sounds so mouthwatering, and I can't actually think of a better time for people to try French cooking. Like, you know, I know, you know, I've watched, you know, Julia, and I thought, oh, I want to do that, but I could never do it with that cookbook. Like, this is the kind of cookbook that makes French cooking much less intimidating. And right now is like the perfect time to try all those things with the time we've got, with the, you know, the winter, the coziest winter probably we'll ever have about to, you know, start. This is such a good time for people to try these dishes, like made from scratch the right way, the French way. So yeah, it's just so lovely. I just love it. Falling in love with the book even more, just listening to you all talk about your trip. So thank you so much for inviting us into that. Just a quick reminder, I wonder if, I just wanted to remind people about the contest. So that contest is open until Sunday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And to enter the contest, basically what you have to do is comment on this video on Facebook, which will be posted to the Touchwood Editions page, or on Instagram. And the prizes, again, what were they, Daisy?
It says a collection of Rebecca and Laura's books, so I think it's a surprise.
Okay, yes.
Lots of good stuff. Lots of good stuff.
It's a great prize pack. Oh, and I just also wanted to say I'll now be converting to Catholicism after I heard there's like a patron saint of crepes.
Crepes, there is.
Yeah, so that's,
And
like
wine.
you said, chooses a religion. It's,
State of wine, yeah.
I love it. Okay, and of course, yeah, you know, I want to thank you all so much, not only for being fabulous authors and, you know, book lovers and food lovers to work with. We had such a great time publishing your book and working with you on it. And thank you to Daisy for facilitating this amazing conversation and for making the trip to France also just all come together. It seemed like such a perfect trio. And my last shout out will be to buy from your local bookstore. So for sure, if you're in the Victoria area, Monroe's Books has it. The Root Cellar will carry it for sure. And Boland's Books, Russell Books, we have plenty of amazing independent booksellers. So please support your local independent retailers wherever you can. Okay, and with that, I think we will say goodbye. Thank you so much to everybody for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.